Good morning. Welcome to the shop.
Focus on the process, not the praise. Not the likes, not the wins, not the race. Don't stress what I can't control. I train my habits, I train my soul. No shortcuts, no emotional mess. I trust the work, I do my best. The future's built by how I show it. I focus on the process.
Alright guys, today brings us to a 2001 Mercedes G Wagon. We got the normal floorboard rot inside from something leaking up top here. Whether it's the sunroof, the windshield, the cowl above the hood, the doors. We'll have to figure that out. Now we're going to be replacing this floor here. You can see how bad a shape this is in. Little hole there. Mercedes likes to weld a little plate for their gas pedal, so that's missing and rotted off. And you can see we got our little puddle of accumulation down here of water, which is not good. They got a channel running underneath this floor for the rear heat coming through. And the thing is with these Mercedes, these floors are 2, 3, 4 layers of metal, and they love to use body panel adhesive between these layers. Sound deadener, tar, you name it, it's there. So normally a lot of people will find an older Mercedes that's wrecked and just cut this section out and weld it in, which sometimes is the easiest way, because splitting these layers can be impossible. We're just going to try to change this top layer to give us some nice fresh metal, clean, get rid of the rust. So we're going to have to see how hard it is to separate this top layer of metal from the layers under it. If it's too hard, we're going to have to chop out what we can, treat all the rust, and add our own layer. You know, make it a layer number 5 or something like that. We'll see. But first, let's take a hose, see where this water's coming from, or try to find where this water's coming from. We'll take a hose and work our way up. First we'll spray in this cowl here without getting anything above it wet. Nothing's leaking, we'll work our way up to here. If nothing's leaking, work on our way up to there, and so on and so forth till I see some water coming in behind the dashboard here. So, because after going through all this work, we're not going to want to do it again. So I'm going to do that water test, let you know what I find. We'll get this seat out and get going and see how rough this floor is going to be. And there's a bunch of other projects I'm going to be doing on this. Metalwork, electronics, stereo, exhaust. So it's going to be a fun little set of videos here. Maybe we'll all learn something. Stick around. So I found the leak. What I did was I took the hose. I first ran it in here. Nothing. Then I ran it here, and leaking like crazy. So I know that the leak is here. So while I'm working, I'm just going to take a piece of duct tape, put it over that line. It may not stop it fully, but it'll help. At least in the couple days I'm working, I won't get water all over the place on the new metal. Then on the inside here, you can see we got the seat out. Seat's 417 millimeter bolts, very easy, and a harness to unplug. Gas pedal is already rotted off, just removed the top part of it. Seat belt was a T45 Torx right there, and the seat came right out. That was very easy. And there's our beautiful wet, rusty, cruddy old floor. Now the major issue is the floorboard they sent me does not match this Mercedes. For whatever reason, I don't know how you'd get this wrong. I could see if it was S-Class, E-Class, C-Class mix-up. But this is a G Wagon. A G Wagon's a G Wagon. All the floorboards are the same. It's a W463. How do you send me the wrong floorboard? So, life just got a hell of a lot harder. You could start seeing differences as I just move the camera back and forth. The only things that are kind of the same in Mercedes is that sensor hole, the tack weld spots for the gas pedal bracket. The torsion bar hole is totally in the wrong spot. You can see it over there, that hole for the bolt for the torsion. The holes for the seat are totally wrong. They should be up here. They're all down there. And there's no notch for the floorboard heat to run that underneath. So I'm gonna have to figure this conundrum out, because this thing was shipped from Europe. It's gonna take forever to get a new one, and return shipping would be crazy, and this thing was like 1,500 bucks. So hopefully I could get most of it to fit. It seems like the flat parts are the right size, but once it starts curving up, that's all wrong. So I'm hoping I can cut it here and up and get full coverage to the edge here. And then I'll have to do something about the bolts for the rocker covers and stuff like that. And I'll have to drill a new hole for the torsion bolt. And I'm hoping maybe I could cut this and drop this flap down and get that heat to come underneath. But the thing is, then it's got to pop back up over there where you see that black plastic sticking out. So I don't know about going the whole way with this. We're just cutting it right here, so I don't have to worry about that tunnel. Right? So let's start peeling some layers, get some rust off, and see what we get. Actually, I think my best bet would be to start cutting this first and laying it in and seeing how it fits. Oh yeah, this is the new gas pedal and the new well-done pedal bracket. So at least we have that. So I'm going to start cutting this big at first, and we'll start laying it in and see how it fits. And I'll get my piece of duct tape on the windshield, and we'll take it from there. Alright, where we're at now. I got more of the carpet out. You can see this is the channel for the heat that comes through the floor to the back seats, and it's nasty. It's full of water and rust. It does have a couple plugs in it to drain things. It would have helped if they were out. This is the front heat, which goes in, so get rid of that. There was a cover, metal cover here just for this plug. Took that off. Took off the gas pedal, spring and everything. This is the sensor that was up in this hole here. So that's out. So basically, I can't just go over this because it's too nasty. So I'm gonna cut this channel out. Cut this channel out. Treat the rust that's in that channel as best I can. Hopefully it's not too bad. Vacuum it, clean it. These rusted off little nubs here are for the clip for the sill covers. They're all shot, so I'm gonna have to grind those all off and maybe just put some rivet nuts in there so they could just be bolted back on instead of worrying about studs. On the plus side, there's very little welds. Mercedes likes to use panel glue, it looks like, and seam sealer. So I ordered a bunch of Silka, which is a great brand, Silka seam sealer, panel adhesive in black. That'll be here tomorrow. So I'm going to cut this open start cutting the floor pan to fit, and we'll pick it back up there. Alright, everything's covered up pretty good. I'm gonna cut this channel out with this nasty rubber on it. It's gonna stink. Probably make a ton of black smoke, but it has to be done. So that's all cut out, vacuumed up. So I'm gonna start cutting the floor to shape, the new floor, to the best of my ability. Cut the pattern. Cut this hole out for the plug. Any holes like this will be cut neater. And I'll use the seam sealer heavy around each rust hole. And that'll seal that. We'll do a couple tack welds, but not too many, because this is the structural floor right here. This is just the top cover, basically for the heat to run through and keep everything neat. It's these layers that cause these issues, you know? As long as you don't get any water leaks or water splashing up to get in between the layers, we'll be all right. So I'll cut out the floor, get my shape right, pull it out, and then we'll clean and seal this all up and spray this all nice. That way tomorrow when the seam sealer comes, we could seal and tack on our new piece of flooring. I'm gonna mark out our new seat holes. We gotta mark out the holes for the clip for the kick panels, whatever you want to call them. And that's it. Okay, everything's cut to fit, nicey nice. All the seat holes are drilled out. The main seat harness hole is cut out. Rear heat has a tunnel right here. And we're going in right there in the front. Got the hole cut here for the torsion bolt if you ever have to get to it. So that won't be a struggle. We'll cut out for the gas pedal. Cut out for the OBD2 plate. The sill rivets we'll do last when I do the sill, because I don't need to do that now. I could just drill them after. They don't have to be in a perfect spot. And that's that. So around each hole, each cutout and fitting, or any holes even under this and along the sides of this channel, we're going to do seam sealer. That way everything's air and water tight. And on top of that, when I took out this upper toe kick on the dash, there was a lot of water on top of it. So I'm almost thinking it could even be this windshield wiper seal. But I mean, it really leaked a lot. So I'm thinking it's this lower windshield seal. I put a little bit of tape so my new work doesn't get wet if it rains. I put a little tape here to keep the water off, but we'll inspect that again. But I do have new seals for these windshield wipers, and like I said, I'm gonna do something about this seal because I got to fix a little bit of rust underneath there. A little bit of rust over here, nothing too crazy. Little sand filler primer, that'll be nice. So I'm gonna pull up this plate, clean up, and then treat this rust so it's dry for tomorrow. All right, today's a little nicer, sunnier out. I decided I want to go back and check on this leak one more time, because I'm starting to think to myself that it might be this windshield wiper seal. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what brought me to think of that, but for some reason I'm thinking it's that more than this windshield seal, because the windshield seal would be, I think, a slower leak, maybe dripping, but this is a pretty heavy leak. But we're gonna test that right now. I got the fresh layer of rust reformer on that, so we'll let the water hit that instead of hitting my new metal, if this is where it's actually leaking from. So I'm gonna take the hose and go right on that, nothing else but that. And then we'll open the door and see what we got. Okay. Oh yeah, lots of water. So it's definitely our leak, is that windshield wiper seal. It sucks. I hate when things are leaking around moving parts. So we have a new, they call it a seal kit, but I guess we'll see how good it seals. I might have to use some seam sealer also around the outside of this, but we'll see, because that's a pretty major leak right there, and we definitely don't want that happening again before we get the new flooring in. All right, we're done for today. Everything's sprayed down with rust reformer, wire brushed, cleaned, all looking good. What a beautiful day. We're back on the wagon. Got what I needed in, and we're ready to go. So as you can see, in the meantime, I got myself into one of these aftermarket made to fit stereos that did not come with 1 ounce of literature. Not one sentence, not even a label on the box. And it's got 360 cameras, all sorts of goodies like that. So this thing's giving me a headache, so I'm glad we're back on the floor. So as you saw last time, I sprayed the floor with rust converter, and that's all dry now and ready to go. And then the floor is formed, cut to fit, pounded into shape. You know, I laid it in where it's got to go, pounded all the edges to fit nice. Since the floor is slightly different than this floor, we drilled out a hole to access the body mount or torsion bar mount, whatever you want to call it. We cut this out and shaped it down to fit the rear heat. So that's going to go down under here, right through a channel, and then pop back up through this hole. Our seat harness is going to come through here, and then we drilled out our holes for our seat. So this is ready to go in. Let's see, I'll show you how this fits. There she is, that's the floor in place. Fits pretty awesome, considering I'm not even sure which Mercedes model this came from. But we're pretty much good to go. And like I mentioned before, these Mercedes body panels are all bonded. There's no welds. I mean, you could easily, you know, throw some tack welds in if you're old school and you feel like doing it, but it's unnecessary because this is a non-structural piece of metal. This piece of metal is only creating a channel for the heat, and it holds a couple studs for the door sill. And that's going to get rivet nutted between this and the metal under it anyway. And that's that. The seats get bolted underneath. The body bushing or torsion bar gets bolted to the lower panel. So there's nothing structural about this. You know, it's pretty much just a casing. So just using panel glue is the way to go. That's how Mercedes did it, and that's how we're going to do it. So that's what I was waiting for. In the older Chevys and stuff, you would do some weld through primer, sand a couple spots, and then do your tack welds and then your pinch welds around the edge here. But this is just going to be, we're going to do, we're going to wire brush down this rust reformer so it's got a little grab, and then we're going to put our epoxy primer on. You can't just use the body glue, the body panel glue on top of this primer, because it's just powdery and it's not meant to hold that. So you'd just be gluing to primer and paint. And same with the back side of this. If you were just to prime it and use your body panel glue, you're only gluing paint to paint. And what does paint do when it gets old? It peels. So you're doing nothing really. And then on the other hand, you don't want to just do bare metal to bare metal, because then you got room to rust. So the solution to that is epoxy primer or epoxy paint. So I ordered some 2-part epoxy primer. Remember, it has to be 2-part or it's not real epoxy enamel. If it's only a 1-part paint, it's just paint. You know, it has to be 2-part, which basically becomes like a JB Weld in a can. You can get a very hard surface, you know, almost like another layer of metal, basically. So I'll show you a can of that. So that's this right here. This is a 2-part. They call them 2K. See right there, it says 2K epoxy. So almost every brand that makes it is going to call it a 2K epoxy primer. So it's going to have a top nozzle and a bottom nozzle. And when you pop that bottom nozzle and shake this can up, it's going to mix the activator with the enamel. And you're going to get an epoxy, just like JB Weld or anything like that. So you spray it on and you're going to get a rock hard surface. So we're going to put that on top of the rust reformer on the lower body panel on the floor, and then we're going to do it on the underside of the floor. Alright, and then once that sets, we'll go to the Silka. Now anybody who's done any construction work or stuff like that knows the name Silka. They make all sorts of epoxies and adhesives for like decking posts and joists and even concrete, stuff like that, to hold thousands and thousands of pounds of weight. So they're a very reputable company. So this is their body adhesive and seam sealer all in one. So this is what we're going to use to glue down the floor. So we're going to get this liberally spread out. Wherever there's a hole, we're going to, you know, encircle the edges where that channel is for the heat. We're going to do each side of that with this, but you'll see. Once I'm done blabbing, I'm just going to run the film and you'll see how the whole process goes. So that's that. This would be a weld through primer, which we're not going to use because we won't be able to stick to that. And you got to sand it off anyway. Even though it's weld through primer, you still got to sand the spot where you're going to do your weld, you know, to get the best weld. So it's kind of like a give and take with this. I mean, it'll give you that protection where you're not going to be able to paint after the fact, but not right at the weld, you know. So where it's plate to plate, in this situation, we're going to put that away and we're not going to use that. So it's going to be epoxy primer, seam sealer, and then I'll probably use the seat bolts to hold this plate down. We'll probably use the seat bolts to hold the back down while it's drying. In the front, depending how nice it grabs, we'll either just use weight or I'll use some self-tappers or something like that. So that's it. That's probably enough explanation for now. So I'm going to set up the camera and you can watch this whole process. Okay, while that epoxy's drying, let's see what's entailed with sealing these windshield wipers. That way I don't ruin all my nice work. This paint is horrible here. Whoever painted this. Looks like a 12. So it's actually a 13. So unscrew this. I figure while I have the seam sealer out, if I need to use a little somewhere in here, might as well do these at the same time, even though I have the seal kit. So we'll see what's involved with that. I'm gonna put a piece of tape to mark where the wiper goes back. So okay. Just so I know where to put the blade back when I reinstall this. So let's see if it just comes off or what. Okay, that's off. Put this to the side. So we got this cap here. There's some soft rubber caps here. This one seems a little bit harder, I guess from painting it. Oh, if this is supposed to be tight, that's definitely the problem. That sure is not tight. Oh yeah. So I think that should be our issue right there. This is very loose. They give us some new washers, new bolts, new nuts, so it should take care of this. I'm surprised there's no rubber grommet here. So that's where it's gonna need my seam sealer. I'm gonna put the nut on, get this tight on both of these. I'm gonna put some sealer, since it looks like only the center moves, and then we'll be good to go on that. So I'll clean this gook out, get both wipers off, install this, clean this out, get it installed, and then when I'm ready to seal the floor, we'll seal these two at the same time. The epoxy primer is dry, and it does dry up very fast. You know, it's a 2-part epoxy, so it's kind of quick setting. And this stuff is like a rock, like a shell. It's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and start bonding, you know, around every edge where I want to seal. This is where your heat's gonna be running through, so this needs a good seal on each side. Wherever there's an old rusty hole or a bolt hole, we're gonna go around, because these holes will fill from underneath. That way I'll have nice new metal and something solid to epoxy to when we fill these 2 holes here, which aren't a big deal. And then I'll probably use some bolts, tappers, weights, whatever to hold the floor down. We'll see what works best with that. And that's the next step. Alright, the new pan is bonded down. I threw in some self-tappers here and there just to hold it tight while it's setting. We're gonna have to weld in this plate with just a couple tacks for the gas pedal. So I'll have to set that into place, figure out where that goes. I want to get a coat of that enamel on before it dries up in the can. And then we're gonna seam seal all the edges. But I thought things were going too smooth. I screwed in these seat bolts to help hold down the pan. and this bolt snapped the threaded part off of the lower pan. So I'm gonna have to try to get that out somehow and either through bolt the seat or get a rivet nut in there at least to hold that corner of the seat. So I knew things were too good to be true. It's gonna be another couple hours, so I'm gonna work on that now and see what my solution to that is. Under the truck now, and that's it. This is the bolt, coated in undercoating and whatever else they got there, and I could see some fresh seam sealant dripping through there. So I'm gonna try to get a vice grip on that, keep it from spinning, and go back up top and see if I could unscrew that. And then we'll see if we could find the right size rivet nut to throw in there. I was able to get that bolt out, so we're gonna put in an M10 rivet nut, and it's a 13mm drill bit for this particular rivet nut. So you just screw it onto the rivet nut gun. Open her up, get her in the hole. Try to do this with one hand. Get her in the hole like that. See if I can prop you guys up here. Get her in the hole, and then we're gonna crimp her. Tighten her up. Give it a crimp. 1, 2. Sometimes people will go a little bit tighter and give it a little extra crimp. But if you go too much, your bolt will have a hard time going in and you'll end up spinning it. And you'll be in the same boat as before. That's it, we unscrew. Test our bolt. See, I might have already went too tight. Oh no, there we go, perfect. And we're back in business for that seat bolt there, thank God. So that seat bolt is in. I put a tapper in next to it anyway because I didn't know how long the repair was going to take. I didn't want it to dry. And now we'll get this gas pedal back on and see where that lands. Gas pedal's in place. Reassembled. So this is our plate. They give you 2 little markings here, like stamped into the metal, and they're actually correct. What do you know? So every Mercedes must have this pretty much in the same spot, because as you remember, this pan is for a different vehicle, but it's the same but different. So I'm gonna pull this back apart and we'll tack weld this little plate on, and then we could finish coating this pan. while the epoxy's drying, let's get the new seals on these wipers. That way I don't gotta worry about the rain getting in. I thought I was gonna have to use some seam sealer on this also, but they give you some gaskets here. They look kind of like a leather. It's like a leather kind of material. You know, a rubbery kind of leather. So I guess it's a lot neater than using seam sealer, but hopefully they work. So, guess we get the seal on here first. Pull this out, get this all the way in, make sure the surface is clean. And we get one of these washers on. And then a new nut. This is what was loose before, causing all the leaking. This thing was just moving like that in there. Must have been noisy when the wipers were on also. So I'm gonna use a vice grip to hold the arm, and I'll tighten it with the open end. I'm not gonna put the actual wipers on yet because I've got some rust and paint to fix under here. You know, I can't stand when they don't do a good job taping off when they paint, and they paint up on the rubber like it's gonna last. It's obviously gonna start peeling and chipping if you paint from the metal up onto the rubber. You know, such a simple thing makes for such a horrible job, you know? Just take an extra minute doing the tape and the masking before you paint. None of that would happen, you know? Okay, so that's all nice and tight. I can't see that leaking at all. Just gonna get the cap. Boom, like that. And when I'm ready to put the wipers on, here's the bolt. So I'll do the other side quick. By then the epoxy will almost be done on the floor. So we're gonna seam seal most of the edges and then drill out all the holes for the sill plate bolts, or studs, whatever you want to call them. And we're almost there. We're in the home stretch now. All right, we're looking beautiful. Look at that nice new floor. All right, so we're not going to hook the pedal up yet because the carpet goes under, and then you snap the pedal into that bracket. Then we put in our plastic parts for the heat. We're going to seal this piece back down for the seat harness. And then we're going to, after the seam sealer, we're going to do a nice gloss coat of black. But even before all of that, this is the piece that holds the door sill on. It snaps into this. And normally you would have little studs sticking out of the floor right here, which were obviously all rusted off and broken and gone. So this piece is broken also, so I'm going to epoxy this together, and while that's drying I'll seam seal this. You know, just go around all the edges with the black seam sealer. So that'll be dry by the time this is dry, and then we'll drill out these holes and get the rivet nuts in. So even though this is old and beat up, if we want to replace it, at least we'll have nice fresh screws that we could pull out, put the new piece on, and then put the screws back in. So it's something you're never gonna see, but in the future at least it'll be replaceable. So that's the next steps. Good morning. Another day, another donut. Let's see what today has in store for us. So everything is dry, the epoxy primer, all my seam sealer. It looks good. But unfortunately I have this ugly carpeting on it right now, so I can mock up the sill plates before we get in the sill clip. So as you remember, there were little studs welded in here every couple inches to hold this clip on. So this clip goes on. What we're going to do is drill some holes and just put some rivet nuts in there, which will be nice and neat. but I wanted to get everything laid out before I place any of these holes, because this can move up or down, and you know how annoying it is when these sills don't snap on right and the carpet sticks out a little bit when you're running stereo wires, stuff like that, and these sills never sit right. So I want it to sit perfect. So the problem we got today is my brother ordered a brand new set of sill plates, but they're just the metal plates, no backing. So there's nothing on the back to clip into this. So we're gonna have to figure that out. I'll show you the one from the passenger side. This is the passenger side sill plate. So you have your metal, and then you have this plastic on the back, which gives you a little bit of weather strip right here, and it gives you this clip, which clips into this slot here, and that holds your sill down, you know, nice and tight, to give you a seal on the pinch weld and on your carpet. It also holds in the wiring for the lighting. I guess these sill plates had a light in them. These new ones don't, so I'm not too concerned about the wiring, but I will leave it in case in the future he does want to go back to the lighted ones. But we got to solve this problem first, because I need this clip to set this, because this doesn't just go down and that's it. This goes somewhere between up and down and left and right, you know? So that's why I want to mock everything up and get it right. I might be able to snap in this passenger side one good enough to get a mock up. So we'll try that. And then I'm going to hop on the bay and see if I can find a driver's side sill plate, or I might design and 3D print a new piece like this. Since I got that giant printer, I might as well put it to use, because this is a little over 2 feet long, so your regular bamboo 3D printer or your whatever you got isn't going to do it. But the Giga, that'll print this. So I'll probably design a new piece and get it printing, and then see if I could get these rivet nuts in while that's printing. And if that could print and come out good the way I like it, bam, we're saving money. Not so much time, but we're saving money, and that's always good. So I designed that sill clip, and I got it going on the giant 3D printer. This piece is almost 3 feet long. That's when a big printer like this comes in handy. Those little bamboos over there, but they're not going to cut it. So this is nice for something like that. So I'll give this a couple hours while I work on the other piece. Normally I'd time lapse something like this, but this is just pretty much a straight flat piece, so I'll check in on it every now and then, but I'm not gonna bore you guys with a time lapse on something like this. Well, fingers crossed, hopefully it comes out nice. Okay, so I got the door rubber temporarily in place. I hate when they make these rubbers like a foot too long. You know, where are you supposed to tuck the excess? You know, you try to stick it on and run the excess out, and it just keeps bubbling off. And on top of that, somebody used this never dry seal on this, so that stuff's getting everywhere. No matter what I touch, this stuff is all over everything now because it never dried. You know, better off not using anything or using something permanent. What a mess that stuff is. So anyway, here's the piece from the rear door, since I don't have the real piece for this yet, and at least I'll be able to move this back and forth and have room to line it up. So now between the carpet and this, I have my actual height of where the sill is going to be. So when this is snapped into this groove here, I'll know that I'm going to be nice and tight to hold my carpet down and hit this weather stripping at the same time. You know, and that's going to be my gauge of how high I want to set this piece here. You know, because too low, it's barely going to catch, it's going to keep falling out. Too high, almost the same issue. It's going to snap in, but not enough. And it's going to be gappy and get dirt and gook under it. So, right now, I'm going to line it up to where I like it, mark all my holes, and then we'll start drilling them out. Okay, weather stripping's back off, carpet's back out. I'm gonna make some fresh holes. You can see how worn these holes are from popping the rusted nuts through. So some holes are okay, I'm gonna leave those, but I'm gonna make some fresh holes near these worn out holes. I got some 8/32 bolts with washes and some 8/32 rivet nuts. Whatever holes I don't use, I'm gonna epoxy and let that dry tonight, just so it looks nice when you lift this up. You're not seeing all these holes everywhere. And basically this lines up pretty much even with the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and start making my pilot holes. And then once these are in, nice coat of gloss black on here. And that's about it. Start putting things together. We'll do a little sound deadening on here. And continue one thing at a time. Let's make some new holes here and some pilot holes. Let me line this up to my marks. So we can do this hole back here is nice. I'll probably go down a little bit more that way, since I know I'm going even with this top anyway. Squeaky bit. One, then we'll do one here. Fresh plastic. We'll do one here. One here, this hole's not so bad. And just mark these and pull it up since I'm a righty. And then do one here. And maybe one and one at the end here. I could get the drill in there. I have to use a right angle drill over here. I'll mark it. Okay. I get this without using the right angle drill. Well, actually, I won't be able to get the rivet tool in there anyway. So this might just get a tapping screw at the very end. I'm not going to get my rivet nut tool in here because I don't have the swivel head 90. So good thing I didn't drill that yet. That's going to get a tapper or a sheet metal screw. Alright, make these holes bigger and we'll get the rivet nuts in. We'll go epoxy the holes I didn't use. Spray this, let that dry. We'll be back to it tomorrow. Man, I hate that noise. Jesus. Come on. Chuck. like to go as tight as I can with these holes because these end up spinning, these rivet nuts, you're screwed. These are nice, these are stainless steel, these ones. Oh, there we go. Broke my bit. That was great. Unfortunately, my tool snapped on the first rivet nut. I mean, these stainless steel ones are great, but they're so hard, just like stainless steel rivets. You go a little too tight and you snap the threads off, especially when it's such a small screw. So I ordered 2 more. Who knows what time they'll be here tomorrow, but I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna search around for different size bolts, different size, because I know what I got already. So we'll wait for those to come. I guess I'll clean this up real good today and get that nice coat of gloss black on it for now. That way that'll be dry for tomorrow. And I'll fill these holes up with the epoxy. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do for the rest of the day. If I have a little more time, I'll hop back onto the stereo. But see you when I see you. Alright, and that's that clip being printed. I laid the passenger side next to the new one. That way you can kind of see what's going on. This is that ABS mixed with carbon fiber filament that they got. It should be strong enough. And obviously it's a mirror image of the other side. I didn't need the wire in it. And it is just plastic, so if I gotta trim a little on the ends or something, no big deal at all. We'll have a nice brand new piece for the driver's side. Can't wait to see that when it's done. There's the gloss black, looking nicey nice. All dry. Just waiting for our new rivet nut bit to get these in. We're almost there. So it's a new day and we're in the home stretch. I got the new tip for the rivet nut gun, so ready to go with that. I actually bought 2 just in case, since these are prone to breaking with the stainless steel rivet nuts, since they're so freaking stiff. Then we got some kill mat. We're gonna put a little sound deadening on the floor. I got stainless hardware, stainless washers, stainless tapping screw for that last hole since I can't fit the rivet nut gun, and 832 bolts for every other hole that we will be using the rivet nuts on. All the rivet nuts are stainless, so everything's gonna be stainless. So this floor can rot around this sill, but the bolts are gonna stay perfect forever. Then this is the sill. It's got all the new holes, fresh holes, and then I epoxied over all the old holes so we don't get any further cracking or it falling apart. It was broken over here, so I epoxied it there. And then finally, the coolest part is the 3D printed sill clip. As I went over, the sills don't come with the plastic backing that you need to snap into that bar. So this is the one from the passenger side, and his driver's side was missing, so I 3D printed this piece right here for the driver's side. That way I have something to snap the stainless sill plate into. So as you can see, it's got this rib here. This is going to get double-sided taped to the metal part, and then this is going to come over here, and once that part is screwed down, this will snap into that clip, and that's it. That'll hold the weather stripping on this side and the carpet on that side. So let's do these finishing touches quick, and we're gonna end it with that. The floor will be done. Right, that's that. Now I'm going to cut some of this kill mat to fit neatly into these recesses here. When you do sound deadening, a lot of people think you got to cover everything. All you need is a patch here and there, because it's just going to stop vibration. I mean, if your car's held together by holes and rust, yeah, maybe this will help hold your car together then, but when everything's pretty solid, you only need a couple squares of this here and there on each panel, because the vibration can only travel as far as this, and then this is going to deaden it, you know? So you just put a couple pieces. If you do hear a rattle in a certain spot, you could go back and add a patch to that panel, because the stuff could be expensive and you end up wasting a lot of it where you don't need it. All right, one project checked off the list. Nice new floorboard on the driver's side. Primed and painted from the front into the back. We got our sound deadening substrate in a couple spots. Show you how the heat is going to run under a nice new channel to get to the back seat. Gotta pop this sensor in for the gas pedal into this hole here, which is really nothing. And then this gas pedal is gonna snap onto that clip once the carpet's in. I'm not gonna put the carpet in yet because I still got wires to run, of course, and I'm not sure of my route yet. So I hate using sills, but we're gonna see what my options are when I get to that. So there's gonna be cameras all over this thing. So what we accomplished showing you how not to be afraid to tackle a job like this, because with all the newer technology of adhesives and sealers and stuff, you can do a lot with just glues and paints and enamels and epoxies. You know, even this bracket for the gas pedal, worst case, it could have been drilled and bolted to the floor if you really were afraid to weld that. You know, and the main repair, why'd we replace this floor? Because this was all rotted out, so a sill would never be able to attach again. The heel of the gas pedal was all rotted out, so the bottom of the gas pedal was just swinging around, very dangerous. And then the heat channel was just full of water, you know, everything was gucked up. Now it's like factory. And then once the carpets are in, this is that piece I 3D printed, so you can see what this clip does. This piece is going to come down, and this tab is going to snap into this groove here. I don't know if you could tell that it's going into a groove right there. This tab is going into that, and that'll snap in all the way across. And this sill plate will be double-sided tape to that. And boom. We're done. So that's another project in the books. Now I'm going to move on to the stereo installation. Take a little break from the body work. And then back to the body. That's it, guys. Thanks again. Peace.